Alright, so our second transformation that we're going to talk about is translations. So our learning intention here is we're going to slide a figure on the coordinate plane. That's kind of the plain word for translations. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to define what a translation is, perform a translation of a given point or object, and identify the translation given to points or objects. So let's start with the vocabulary like we usually do. And we'll say a translation is a transformation that slides a figure a given distance. And two key notes here: transformation is a rigid motion, which we went over in video 2, and a transformation preserves orientation. Alright, so I told you guys from video 3 that I would go over how a translation preserves orientation, just so you can see the difference between something that does preserve orientation and something that does not. Alright, so if we look at the graph we have to the right here, right, we have two triangles. We have triangle ABC, and we have triangle A prime, B prime, C prime, or the way they labeled it was A1, B1, C1. That's fine. So what took place here? How far did the triangle slide, and in which direction? So the way that I would look at this is it slid down 2 and to the left, down 2 and to the left, and to the right 6. So we could write this plane by saying that it was down 2 and to the right 6. Right, if you do see this in notation, it's actually going to be written with a capital T and the numbers underneath. But what's important here is, just like our points where our x coordinate must come first, in this case our x or our left or right value must come first, so it would be a translation of 6 because it moves to the right, and then down 2 again, just like our coordinates, so this is actually going to be a -2. This is the notation for translation that you're going to see. Alright, so here's the rule. So in reflections, we had 4 rules that we had to memorize. Here with translations, we really only have 1. So if we see again, we have translation of A comma B. All right, this first number deals with the X, and this second number deals with the Y. And all we're going to do is add these things together. As you can see here, X plus the number A and Y plus the number B. The other way that you can see this written that will come up every once in a while is they will say the point X comma Y undergoes a translation of X plus A and Y plus B, and what they'll do is they'll actually put numbers here instead of writing it in this kind of notation. But either way, it's still the same thing. So for our example over here, -5 is my A and 3 is my B. So all I have to do, and I'll do it in different colors here, I'll do the A and the X in this light blue. So I would do 3 plus -5. And then in green here, we would do the B, which is the 3 and the 4. I would do 4 plus 3. So my final point, or my final answer, would be -2, 7. And that's pretty much as complicated as it's going to get for performing a translation to a figure. We might have to do multiple points to get a different figure on a graph or something like that, but that's the same rule. So the translation will follow the rule for all of the points. All right, so let's actually get down to an example here that has a graph and has an image on it. All right, so first example, 3 parts here. Graph the triangle ABC with vertices A at 2, 0, B at 4, 0, and C at 4, -3. So A is here, B is here, and C is here. So that's my starting triangle of ABC. And it says graph its image after a translation of -4, 2, and label the new image A prime, B prime, C prime, and state the coordinates. So we got a lot of work to do here, but it's not too bad. So if I'm just looking at this, I can actually just count if I really want, because I know that the -4 tells me I'm going to the left 4, and I'm going to go up 2 because the 2 is positive. But again, from the last video, as I showed you, what I like to do, just to double check myself, and especially because the question does say state the coordinates, I like to write out what A, B, and C are. And I like to actually do the math, because this helps me double check my work if I do decide to do it on the graph, or if the question says to state the coordinates. So we're going to do a translation of -4, 2. And again, I'm just going to add. So I'm going to do 1 point at a time. So I'm going to do this 2 plus this negative 4, which is going to get me negative 2. Then I'm going to do this 0 plus this 2, which makes 2. So that's my first point. And I'm going to do 4 and a negative 4, which makes 0. I'm going to do 0 and a 2, which makes 2. Do 4 and a negative 4, which also makes 0. And a 3 and a 2, which makes 5. So these are my new coordinates here. That's going to be my answers. All right, and what I'm going to do with these three things, I'm just going to plot them and label them so that we have a new point here, or a new triangle. Negative 2, 2 is A prime, 0, 2 is B prime, and 0, 5 is C prime. Again, if I want to check myself, or if I was doing this on the graph, I would just count. I'd be going to the left 4 and up 2. I can just count this 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. So that's how I can check my rule to make sure that it's right. All right. So the only other way they can ask a question about a translation or something else you'll see is if P, and we'll look at this second question here, if P is negative 2, 3 and P prime is 4, 8, what is the translation that will map P to P prime? Meaning, how do we get there? Now this would be very, very easy on a graph because we could just count it. All right. But that's not going to happen here, so we're going to have to do a little bit of math and a little bit of thinking to figure this out. So if we think about the translation rule, okay, I'm trying to find the translation of A comma B. So I actually want to figure out what these two numbers actually are. So my rule actually is that negative 2 plus A equals 4. So negative 2 plus A equals 4. So how would I solve that, or how would I find letter A? Well, I can just add 2 to both sides. I can do a little algebra here. I can see that A is 6. Right? That's one way to do this. The other way you can do this is you can just kind of think of, 3 plus what number gives me 8, or we can work backwards, and we can say that 8 minus 3 is B, which is 8 minus 3, B, which is 5. So you can do this either way. You can set up your little algebra equation if you want, or you can work your way backwards. 8 minus 3 gives me what I'm looking for. So I would need to answer this question probably in notation, and just to get you guys used to it. So if my A is 6 and my B is 5, I have a translation of 6 comma 5. All right, so that's our translation formulas here. That's the rule. That's how it works. All right, again, I got a bunch of examples down set up for you in the packet for you guys to practice. Write down any questions. Give yourselves a short summary here so we can study. And at the end of this video, or at the end of the practice section, you have a mastery check for this. So let me know when you're ready for that. And I'll see you guys for rotations. That's going to be our last rigid motion. That's what's up next.